Casey, tell us about my next...
Locked themselves in an office. We cannot phone them. They can only phone us. Received?
250 received. I tell them to maintain their position and lie on the ground if necessary.
The standoff in the city's east as a gunman holds police at bay.
His 7 hostages have made a dramatic escape, but tonight the drama continues.
The man is holed up in a lawyer's office and the area remains sealed off.
First at 5, the tense wait for police and relatives.
Good evening, and as we go to air, the siege continues.
And this evening there's traffic chaos in the eastern suburbs, with Maroondah Highway still closed as police keep the scene cordoned off.
The 44-year-old man, armed with a semi-automatic shotgun, is apparently upset about a property settlement. He held a male solicitor hostage downstairs, while upstairs 6 women locked themselves in an office. All were released unharmed early this afternoon. The standoff at a Mitcham solicitor's office has stopped traffic for most of the day along the city's major arterials and caused disruption on the nearby Ringwood-Lilydale rail line. Norm Beeman is now at the scene. So, Norm, what can you tell us? What's the latest?
Yes, Mel, this siege drama has now been underway for more than 7.5 hours with no sign of an end. The man is still holed up in the solicitor's office just up the way here in Maroondah Highway. He says he's there for the long haul. He's prepared to stay 3 days if necessary, and police say they're prepared to play his waiting game. Meanwhile, there's absolute dislocation here in the suburb of Mitcham. The normally busy Maroondah Highway is at a standstill, as it has been all day. The shops in the strip up here, they've been shut all day. I understand some staff may be still in some of those buildings. The rail line at the back of the solicitor's office is running, but the trains are not stopping at the Mitcham station. Now, this is how it all started earlier today. 9:25 this morning, Mitcham Shopping Centre on busy Maroondah Highway. A man enters a solicitor's office brandishing a shotgun.
250 VKC to all units involved in holding pedestrians back here to make sure all persons are kept away from the front of shop windows and away from the footpaths.
Inside, a male solicitor and 6 female office workers. While the gunman shouts his grievance to the solicitor, the women manage to escape to an upstairs room and lock themselves in.
Male is at the front door with one other male with the firearm.
What follows is a tense, sometimes weird exchange between gunman and solicitor. At times, the gunman is seen to smile and shake hands with the solicitor.
Another one in 250, we've got a report from inside the building. Apparently this male is angry, lucid, clear-headed and has financial problems, which is what the problem is. Received.
He's now roaming around on his own in the place, and it has escalated to the extent that there's now no one talking to him. He's not on the phone to our negotiators at the moment. We're trying to gain contact with him.
Outside, police saturate the area. Special Operations Group marksmen take up vantage points. Even the bulletproof special response vehicle is brought in. The 6 lanes of Maroondah Highway come to a standstill, and police negotiators start talking to the gunman.
He wants his way, and unfortunately the court has ruled upon that.
The gunman at this stage is said to be lucid and calm, but very determined. Police say the actual solicitor who handled the man's affairs is not at the office, but no attempt is made to bring him in.
Our way of doing things at the moment, of course, is not to force an issue with him, is to take it as softly as we can.
It's now 3 hours into the siege and things have taken a turn for the worst. The solicitor who was being held by the gunman has managed to escape. The gunman is now reported to be very agitated.
At this stage, we believe he doesn't know they're there still. But if he were to find out, he's then got 6 more hostages. Now, what we're trying to do at this stage is encourage him to come downstairs, and then we will safeguard the hostages and get them out.
Then, 4 hours after it all began, police slipped the women out through the back of the building.
As the drama continued, friends and relatives of the hostages gathered not far from the besieged solicitor's office. Throughout the ordeal, police tried to reassure them that the safety of the 7 was their priority. Here's Peter Morris.
For police, the priority was the safety of the hostages. Special Operations Group officers set up a plan of attack which would eventually see those being held by the gunman brought to safety. Of the 7 hostages in the solicitor's office, 6 were women, 1 6 months pregnant. While the solicitor was being held at gunpoint downstairs, his workers were hiding in an upstairs office. Little did they know, concerned relatives were several hundred metres down the road.
He has one of the solicitors in there, but I believe that all the women are in one of the offices.
I just got out here as quick as I could, and, you know, to see there's nothing I could do, of course.
Of those in the upstairs office, one managed to make telephone contact with police and her relatives. A short time later, relief for the solicitor at the centre of the drama when he fled 2 hours after being grabbed by the erratic gunman. For police, it was a risky situation to try and move the other hostages, but it was one which ultimately paid off.
There is a manhole in the building, in the ceiling of the building. The SOG had made their way through the roof to that manhole. They were speaking to the ladies on the telephone prior to and at the time. They've entered the building, got them out through the manhole and down their temporary ladders.
The shaken group of workers was driven out of the scene by paramedics. All appeared none the worse for their ordeal.
Well, they seem calm and relaxed. They're carrying on pretty well, considering what's happened to them.
And for relatives, huge relief.
It's an enormous relief for everyone, and myself and the kids are really relieved that there's no harm came to Margaret and the others.
Late today, those being held hostage by the gunman were receiving post-trauma counselling from health and community service workers before being interviewed by investigators. Peter Morris, 10 News.
Let's go back to Norm Beeman at the scene now. Norm, what are the options left open for police?
Well, Mel, they remain in negotiations with the gunman, usually via mobile phone. Now they face the horrible decision of what to do, what options they should exercise to bring all of this to an end.
Our options at the moment now are either to force the issue, which we don't like to do. We're criticised when we do force it. We're criticised when we don't force the issue. Our best bet at the moment is to wait, negotiate. Now, he has suggested that he's prepared to stay 3 days if necessary.
Yes, well, as you heard there, he's prepared to tough it out. He has asked police for food, but they say none will be given, and they will just play a waiting game to see how they can resolve this matter. We'll be here throughout the night, and we'll bring you updates as they occur.
Thank you, Norm. Norm Beeman live at Mitcham, and as we said, we'll keep you updated on that story throughout this First at 5 bulletin.
In other news, 2 police officers have been injured when
9.5 hours. 6 women, one of them pregnant, and a lawyer were held at gunpoint for much of that time as the gunman negotiated with police over a family court dispute. Helen Ballard reports.
The drama began at 9:25 this morning when a man burst into the solicitor's office of Wainwright Ryan on Maroondah Highway at Mitcham. Armed with a semi-automatic shotgun, the 45-year-old gunman bailed up a solicitor.
The suspect still at the doorway with his back to the door, now turned round with the firearm, still over his left shoulder and talking on the mobile.
A receptionist managed to escape. 6 other women, one of them 6 months pregnant, fled to an upstairs room and locked the door.
All units remain at your positions, could be getting to critical stage.
Police immediately implemented a disaster plan, blocking off the highway at both ends. The major highway was to remain closed for the whole day.
We have those 6 females upstairs who are going to need some sort of counselling when this is finished.
Police made contact with the gunman on a mobile phone. In between his conversations with the lawyer, he told police negotiators he had recently lost property in a family court case.
We're not sure exactly what his whole intention is.
One of the women holed up on the first floor managed to ring her husband.
I think they felt they were relatively safe in the upstairs office because it was locked and they had a filing cabinet against the door. And they knew that the gunman was downstairs with the solicitor.
Just after midday, the solicitor bolted from the building and was violently ill before reaching the safety of police lines. The gunman appeared to panic and ran upstairs to the same floor as the women. The gunman's demeanour jumped from what police described as quiet, rational and determined to extremely agitated. It was at that point the remaining hostages were considered to be in serious danger. It was unclear whether the gunman knew the women were there, and police didn't allow him time to find out. In a spectacular operation, SOG police pulled the women through a manhole, down ladders and across roofs to safety, much to the relief of relatives.
Well, at the moment I'm shaking like a leaf till I see her and see that she's all right.
They've been in there for some hours, as you know, and having been freed and out of danger, they were just so relieved, and that was clearly on their faces when we transported them.
With his hostages gone, the gunman became even more agitated, barricading himself inside. But he made a brief appearance on a balcony, appearing to enjoy the attention.
He has suggested that he's prepared to stay 3 days if necessary.
St John's Primary School students who had not been allowed outside all day were allowed to go home at the normal time. 120 workers from an adult migrant centre were also locked inside all day. The gunman's sister was brought in this afternoon to help negotiate. Whitehorse Road in Mitcham remains blocked. Peak hour traffic is chaotic. Helen Ballard, National 9 News.
The gunman is still holed up inside the Maroondah Highway building and showing no signs of backing down. Reporter Celia Horgan is there. Celia, what's the latest?
Brian, police are hoping that nightfall might make the gunman think again about his threat to stay here for 3 days. He's barricaded himself up on the first floor of the building using filing cabinets and other office furniture to try and keep himself locked in there. Police say under no circumstances are they going to rush the office at all. They say they're just going to wait it out. They say that the longer he stays in there, the better it really is for them. They say he's very calm but very stubborn, so it looks like we're all going to be in for a very long night here tonight. Back to you, Brian.
Thank you for that, Celia. The Kennett and Howard governments are at war over tax with Victoria, claiming Canberra has broken key election promises on funding to the states. The federal government's move to force states to pay $1.2 billion in sales tax has set the scene for a brawl at tomorrow's Premier's Conference. Simon Clark with more.
Jeff Kennett had decided to bury his differences with John Howard and Peter Costello, but he's now flying north to reopen hostilities after Canberra's preemptive strike. Without warning yesterday, the Federal Treasurer slapped sales tax on traditionally exempt government cars. Schools and hospitals
shut up shop. Emma Power reports school children were kept inside and more than 100 migrants had an anxious wait.
120 distressed migrants were finally released from their English-speaking school after being holed up for 6 hours. Some had been sick and crying as their teacher battled to keep calm.
Many of our people have come from situations where they've seen this type of thing firsthand, and it brought back a lot of very bad memories for many people.
They could see the gunman from their classroom windows.
We saw the policemen running around and we were told not to get out.
At nearby St John's Primary School, children were kept inside all day, not allowed to go home until relatives arrived.
Very concerned all day, but I was able to contact the school and found out that they were being kept inside.
The siege has blocked off 6 Mitcham streets, drivers forced to detour. 200 shops were closed. Business operators say today's siege has cost them thousands of dollars.
Very quiet actually, it's just been dead, no one's been allowed to come through. So basically it's been very badly affected.
All trains were ordered not to stop at Mitcham Station, leaving hundreds of confused commuters stranded. Emma Power, 7 Nightly News.
And of course we will continue to monitor the standoff. We'll cross live for
Melbourne a short time ago. The standoff began at 9:30 this morning when a man walked into a solicitor's office and took 7 people hostage.
Exactly 12 hours after the siege began, heavily armed police moved in, first attempting to stun the man with capsicum spray and then firing 2 rounds of tear gas. Shortly after, the man was overpowered. The 45-year-old was in custody, ending a tense standoff that began with a hostage drama.
So they could come around the back in Station Street together with an arrest team, please.
Earlier, they surrounded the solicitor's office, where the man had taken a hostage and 6 others were barricaded inside. Others managed to escape.
I just mentioned to the gunman that I had better things to do outside. I had to go out and talk to someone and I'd be back.
Heavily armed officers made a daring attempt to free the 6 women who had locked themselves in upstairs.
He still has a firearm in his right hand. Looks like a long-barrel .22. He's now picked up the mobile or something similar from the chair.
The 6 women were eventually freed from the ceiling and led away under heavy police guard.
I'll make a
Bit rough at the time?
It happened very quickly, so.
A woman 6 months pregnant was also freed.
Feels a lot better now, a lot safer now. Yeah. Bit of an ordeal, but she's coped with it very well.
Police have confirmed the man's gun was loaded. He's been taken to hospital and will face several charges. Rob Sharp, 7 Nightly News.
State leaders have arrived in Canberra tonight ahead of the Premier's conference
in Melbourne to grab a gunman involved in a day-long siege. The 45-year-old man, a licensed shooter, armed with a semi-automatic shotgun, had barricaded himself in an office with hostages.
Using the bark of a police dog to lure the man onto the balcony, police doused him with capsicum spray before firing off 2 canisters of tear gas from across the road and through the window of the top floor office. A 3rd canister of gas was dropped from the roof before Special Operations Group officers made their way inside.
We have him at the moment, and with all units, please maintain their position until ordered.
The end result is exactly the way we wanted it to go.
Incapacitated by both the capsicum spray and the tear gas, police say the man made no attempt to pick up his weapon and was apprehended straight away. It began at 9:25 this morning when the licensed shooter burst into the offices of Wainwright Ryan. With a solicitor bailed up, a receptionist and 6 other women, one of them 6 months pregnant, fled upstairs. About 3 hours later, the solicitor escaped and was violently ill before reaching the safety of police lines. Later, in a spectacular operation, SOG police pulled the women through a manhole, down ladders and across roofs to safety, much to the relief of relatives.
Well, at the moment I'm shaking like a leaf till I see her and see that she's all right.
With the hostages free, the gunman became agitated, at one stage appearing on a balcony to taunt police. The standoff closed several major roads in Melbourne's outer east, causing traffic chaos for much of the day. The man has now been taken to Box Hill Hospital where he's undergoing examination. Police will question him later and expect to charge